Hello Crystalline family. So it is the 1st of November and so I'm going to be doing a Crystalline monthly forecast reading for you. And apologies, this is not a live reading because we have some big weather here in the Northern Rivers and I just wanted to make sure the connection was going to be secure. So being out here in the hills, anything is possible. You could probably hear the thunder rolling in. So I hope wherever you are that you are safe and sound, and also just trusting this reaches you all in good time, even though it might take a little while to upload, but I'm trusting it'll land in the perfect timing. So let's look at the Crystalline energetics for November and the month ahead. I can't believe how quickly this year has been moving already. It just feels like lightning speed. And today in the Crystalline cycle, we are journeying through the fourth sphere in the Tree of Life, which is basically where a quickening starts to happen anyway. Once we move through the roots and the more denser physicality of the beginning parts of the cycle, as we journey upwards and as we're shifting layers, we start to move more rapidly. So like with any cycle, things happen quick towards the end. So here we go. Let's have a little look at what wants to journey into our tree this month. So as I'm shuffling and tuning into that, I want to talk to you a little bit about fluorite, because fluorite is the crystalline frequency of the planetary cycle today. And fluorite is one of those crystals that is quite a popular one, and it comes in many forms. Often the rainbow fluorite is one that's quite popular. So it has sort of like greens and purples, but sometimes fluorite even comes in blues and yellows and pinks. It's quite an amazing mineral the way it grows, and its structure is also quite, I want to say cubic, but it forms definitely with angled edges, which gives it a real affinity to the mind, because it's really about order, structure, creating that edges to be able to hold the emotional body. So essentially we are in an area of the higher emotions collectively, but in order for those emotions to actually be seen, held and processed, they need to be held within a structure. So whether that structure be a physical mineral, a crystal, or even just someone holding space, even you holding space for yourself to be present with what is being felt. So this is what is really being called forth from us, to have the mental clarity, the mental discipline, the mental fortitude to hold that space for the emotional body to unfold, to be seen. So that's an interesting thing to reflect on just collectively as we're moving through that together. So let's see what crystals want to inform our month ahead and give us some insights, some perspectives and some clarity for how to navigate this tail end of the year. It certainly has been an interesting year and a big year of, well, for me personally, completions, but it is also just collectively a big year of shedding, of reevaluating, of really working out what we want to bring forward into this new chapter. And although we're not quite at the end of the year just yet, I definitely feel that the new energy is moving through already. We already have a sense of the quickening that comes with the end of any cycle and this opening into something new, just as overlapping the same time as a lot of big endings and closures and sheddings. So let's see and get a bit more refinement on how that's going to look. Okay. dokey. So let's see, what do we, oh, well, that makes a lot of sense. Okay. Beautiful, beautiful. So I was just talking about the snake shedding its skin, and what we have right at the very top of the tree, which really is the, I guess, spirit head, or the message coming from on high, is really the energy of letting go. So green calcite is one of the crystals, or one of the colors that the calcite crystal comes in. Calcite comes in many different colors, but each of the different color rays holds a specific frequency, and anywhere where you have that green color has a lot to do with healing, a lot to do with shedding, but also fresh new shoots. It's interesting, like when I'm looking at a spread, I always look for the colors primarily. Crystals speak to us in the language of color and also the language of geometry and shape. So when we look at crystals, you know, they inform us how they work in our bodies, in our bodies of consciousness through these avenues. So I'm seeing this support to assist us to really reevaluate everything within our lives and see the things that are needing to be shifted, reassessed. And it's interesting because, as I mentioned, with the fluorite being the crystal of the day and the particular area within the tree of life that we are on collectively in this cycle, we are navigating the emotional body. And in order to really allow emotions to flow, which is how they're designed to move, but you know, we can't always have the space and time to deal with emotions as they arise, so they get stored in different parts. So sometimes, you know, these feelings and emotions that arise are not actually specifically relevant to the now moment. You might just be having a rest and a nap, and then a feeling arises, or a thought or a memory that comes back. And really all that's required right now, as the energy is just speeding up, is just that you are in witness and hold the container, like with the fluorite, hold the structure of your consciousness to be able to allow the emotion to be seen, be felt, and to let it go. That's essentially the gift of the green calcite, which is the message that we're receiving and filtering down through the whole tree, through the body of consciousness. So this is a great opportunity to shift. And it's also really beautiful. I'm starting at the top of the tree right now because the similar colors that we have supported in the divine feminine realm is Peridot. And I think from memory we had that last month. So Peridot is a crystal of new beginnings. It's a birthing crystal. This is one of the primary frequencies we use to support the birth process. And so yes, collectively we are in a massive rebirthing. It feels like the end of things, and yes, we are shedding and letting go of a lot, but at the same time there's new things opening and birthing. So there is really that support, that energy from the divine feminine, the mothering energy of assisting the new ways to open, and the joy that brings. So although there may be waves of grief, there may be waves of sadness that comes with any change and letting go, there is also great opportunity for lightness, joyful breath to bring the new into the lungs, into life. You know, when we think about being joyful, when we think about celebration and new beginnings, it's really welcoming the new into our whole being. So there is those two energies side by side, which are a similar color, similar frequency, but they're really supportive of one another, even though one of them is a letting go and one of them is a welcoming in. And on the masculine side of that little trinity that's being supported, we have Selenite. And the beautiful thing about Selenite being in this masculine role on the tree is that Selenite is about bringing more light in, more consciousness. It's, if you see these crystals grow, they're like, you know, electrical cables, like the way the filaments grow, it just illuminates. And this is about bringing more awareness and guidance and support. So there's a real sense of, although we may feel the struggles, the grief, the hardship of letting go, of shifting, of changing patterns, there is great support there. There is great light coming in to sort of give us a lift to shift through and move through any density, any challenges. So right down at the very bottom of the tree, right in the roots, I've got Moonstone. And it's interesting because, you know, Moonstone, we've got that full moon coming up in a couple of days. And, you know, as I've mentioned before, I'm not an astrologer, so I'm not going to go into planetary movements right now, but we do know the effects of the moon on our waters, on our physical bodies, on our tides. It really brings the emotions up to be seen, to be felt. And also the Moonstone is a stone that is also about the unknown, because the moon comes out in the darkness of night. And, you know, we are, you know, we're in that Halloween stage at the moment. You know, for those of you in the Northern Hemisphere, it's Samhain. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but really we're in springtime here in the south. So I don't know why we do Halloween down here. It's really weird, but anyway, that is ultimately the opposite ends of the spectrum. So even though we've got half of the planet doing the death cycle and half of the planet doing the birth cycle, ultimately that is happening at the same time. So we've really got a unification that's happening when you have half the planet doing one thing and the other half doing the other. So it's really beautiful to acknowledge the opposites. Like, I'm looking at the sunlight right now at the same time as the rain. You can have a death at the same time as a birth. You can have a heart full of grief and sadness at the same time as exploding with joy. And it's the line between love and pain. It's so profound, the human experience, to have these dichotomies, these opposites really being held within the one vessel, which we are, and ultimately bringing these opposites, bringing the light into the dark and the dark into the light, and that whole movement of opposites, how they swim and merge together, is what brings us contrast, but also the alchemy, the magic of life. And that's really what is held in the unknown, in the darkness, in the areas where we don't know what the future holds. And really our feet are in that space now. So Moonstone is, it does say Mother Goddess, and in so many cultures around the world, the goddess has many faces. But the one thing that is common with that thread is this whole air of mystery. This is the fathomless void. This is the not knowing really which way is up and which way is down, kind of like being in the birth process. And this is where we are here in November. Our feet are in that space where we're like, I don't know necessarily what's going to happen, which way is forward and which way is back. But I do know that something's changing, something big is changing inside me and inside all of us. And we're given the support to be shedding and letting go, receiving the guidance and feeling the excitement and the opportunities opening at the same time as being kind of terrified of the deep mystery. And that is the energy where great change happens within the earth, within our own beings. And that is the alchemy that creates gold. So we have gold in the emotional sphere, and we have Amazonite in the mental sphere. And interestingly enough, both of these are sphere 4 crystals, which is what we are moving through together collectively, this 4th sphere. So it's all about how we alchemize ourselves but also walk the middle path. So Amazonite is a stone of finding the middle way. You know, we've got all of these opposites, these belief systems that, you know, once we start to see, well, hang on, I see a truth here, but I also see a truth here, and these two opposing things could actually coexist. And perhaps there's so many things that it's hard to make sense of out there in the world, but really what's going to help to assist us moving forward is just alchemizing the process within you and just taking one step at a time. It's the one step at a time that has got me through so many challenging times, so many dark times, when you just don't know which way you're going, but you know you have to make a move and you have to make a step. So we have that being very much the energy of the mental and emotional spheres as we're navigating. And really what's under that and what is at the core or the subconscious layer of that is our belief in self, in how we view ourselves. We've got rhodochrocite, most beautiful crystal, these beautiful peachy pink colors. That is a crystal of self-love. And you know, self-love is an interesting one because we all know we've got to do it right. But how do you do that actually? Like sometimes you think you've mastered it and then you come around, cycle again and realize, oh no, shivers, I've still got a fair way to go with that. And that's okay because we're all on the journey of learning to actually love ourselves above all else, and not in a selfish way, but just knowing that you are the all. When we can hold ourselves in that level of deep love, reverence and respect, then we are able to hold that same love, reverence and respect for our world around us and for every person who shows up in our world, even if they are people that challenge you or hold different views, or you know, are the ones that are bringing the lessons and the challenges in your life. You know, the more we can really do the inner work, the more the outward expressions become easier, and we're less moved by praise or blame or criticism or anything out there in the world. You know, we can hold strong, and the more we do that for ourselves, the more we give permission for other people to do that as well. So I'm really loving the theme that's showing up as we're moving up the tree through this mystery, through the darkness of the feminine, the fertile soil, and alchemizing ourselves as we're going through that crucible of this time of the year. And it's also interesting that of this spread, we actually have 3 crystals that are in the planetary cycle. So the higher expression of the emotional body. Here is another 4th sphere crystal, Angelite. And Angelite is one of those stones that does get overlooked a lot because it's not super popular, even though it's quite common. It's like a very pale, peaceful blue. It is a stone of peace, and perhaps it's one that we don't see that often because peace is not necessarily one we're that familiar with, especially in our modern world where we're constantly on the hustle and we're constantly in the bustle of life, and things feel so fast paced that sometimes we just want to get off the train. So this is really a call to peace for our emotional body. So it's a way that, yes, we can be processing, yes, we can bring presence and healing to the things that might feel like a storm within us, but ultimately from a higher perspective, from a higher part of that witnessing self that we can attune to, there is just a vast sea of peace that we can step into while also navigating the storm. So it's sort of like that eye of the storm experience that can be tapped into in any moment. And that's really what we need to call on within ourselves. We spoke of love, but also peace. How can we embody those principles we want to see in the world when the world is showing us war and craziness out there, you know, and a lot of disrespect for nature, for each other. And then the highest aspect of the mental space, which is opposite that Angelite, is Sugilite. And Sugilite is the stone of the inner child. So we are doing a lot of inner reflections and even as adults working with that inner child principle. The inner child is really something that is such a crucial part to work with, because ultimately we never really grow up, do we? Like we become adults, but there are those parts of ourselves that still need to be held, that still need to be spoken to with kindness, that still needs to be encouraged, that still needs to be given a talking to from time to time. You know, we need to give ourselves this gentle guidance that comes from the inner mother, the inner father, and that inner mothering and fathering is kind of what we're all doing internally, but also coaxing the new way, the new world, our new children that are here on the planet, whether you have physical children or not. It is from the standpoint of the mother-father principle that we can actually be in the co-creative and what is the word I'm looking for? It's the caretaking. It's the caretaking role where we're guarding and protecting that which we value. And that's really and ultimately such an important role to be stepping into as humanity. You know, we need to be calling on those principles to guard and protect that which we believe in, that which is that needs protecting out there, and that includes ourselves. So that gives us a beautiful insight into the flow of the tree. So just for reference, we're starting our roots in the fertile soils, in the darkness of the lunar space. The emotional realms are feeling quite churned up at the moment and asking to be held and to be processed and released. But there is a new horizon opening up as we're making those movements one step at a time through the Amazonite, finding that middle path to peace, to nurturing that inner space. And really what comes from this, once we can really work out on all the branches of that masculine, feminine, mental, emotional, and all the parts that make up this whole worldview that we're delving into right now, right at the center, we have the diamond frequency. And as you can see, there's rainbow light coming from the center. And this is a crystal that is in that oneness principle, which I was speaking about at the start. We're bringing all of the opposites into oneness right in the center space. This is ultimately like the sun at the center of our spread that radiates out and is connected along all the branches of the tree. And it's about bringing light into the body, enlightening our physical temples. So I hope you feel that this month. I hope you can feel that despite the tumultuous energy that you potentially are moving through. I mean, it's different for everyone. Some people are cruising through this, maybe just feeling a little bit more tired, you know, busy end of year times. But for a lot of people, big things are happening, big things are shifting. And I think the big thing to remember is to make diamonds, you know, there is pressure. And pressure might feel intense, but it is possible to tap into peace and resilience while this process is changing us. And last but not least, we have the 11th card on the tree, which is really our journey into the next stage. And we've got Smoky Quartz, and Smoky Quartz is the stone of earth light. So even though it is a darker crystal, they say the darker the crystal, the more light it holds, because ultimately Smoky Quartz actually holds a lot of radiation from inside the earth. So they are holding so much light on the inside. And really that that earth light is like tapping into, like, think about our physical planet absorbing so much light and frequency that is coming in at this time of year with different planetary alignments and things that are happening right now. There is such a big influx continually streaming to us, and it's really being stored like a super battery, like charging into the center of the earth. So although there is this sort of image of darkness, there is so much light held within the body of the earth and within your own individual bodies. So we see these two crystals side by side, the Smokey and the diamond light, which is like, again, they're sort of yin and yang. We've got this dark depth of our inner beings that is really being transformed and alchemized into this shining bright light embodied. So we've got earth light and light body. So I feel like there's a really big transformational month ahead for us, and with those little bits of insight and how to navigate the mind, the emotions, and all the parts that are moving, I'm hoping that has assisted you with this coming month ahead. So lots of love to you all out there, and I look forward to tuning in again next month.